Raisa mawoko mambo, raisa mawoko muroshi, raisa mawoko mambo, raisa mawoko muroshi, raisa mawoko signor, raisa mawoko achinchanja, raisa mawoko netoko.
Members of the Fourth Estate, thank you once again for the patience for waiting for 2 days. We were supposed to have a press conference 2 days ago when the Politburo met. We didn't exhaust the items, and we continued the adjourned meeting today. In the meantime, I think we need to highlight the importance to which the President attaches to a harmonious working relationship between business and the ruling ZANU-PF. We had to adjourn because there was a Alpha Media investment conference where the President was guest speaker, and even though whilst it clashed with the agenda of the party, he felt it important that the party issues be deferred so that he could attend and listen to the Zimbabwean business community. We want to thank Alpha Media Holdings for that initiative which they did. It is probably the first time where a cross-section of business is meeting the President on investment issues in light of the successes which have been scored by the President since his mantra Zimbabwe is open for business, and to have a private sector media company in Zimbabwe hold such a well-attended conference. It is a good thing. We want to thank Alpha Media Holdings for taking that initiative. There was a lot of candor in the interactions. There was also an effort to understand where the government is coming from in light of the last frontier battle of the Zimbabwean currency. We need to domesticate our currency, the Zimbabwe dollar. We have had challenges, and these challenges are pretty much post-colonial. We were always a gold standard country, being a major gold producer of historical note since the 8th century AD. Then in 1890, we lost our gold currency. We were given fiat money by the colonials. It has been a battle to try to restore our currency. And President Mnangagwa has taken it head on. And I think the fruits are beginning to bear. We basically are going back to the gold standard in careful, calibrated moves to make sure that we reference our currency to something which is independently given a value by the market, which is gold. We were trying to peg our currency to the Zimbabwe dollar. Then you become subject to the vagaries of another government, which is the American government, and also to the caprices of any other middlemen who are bringing the dollar or managing the dollar. The government literally loses control on the money printing side of business, which is the sole responsibility of the Central Bank of Zimbabwe. So the moves which the President has done, which the Central Bank has done, which the Minister of Finance have done, they are giving a new confidence to the business community that will tame inflation, and they also may restore the purchasing power of the ordinary Zimbabweans who have been so traumatized, by the loss of value of their currency over a period of time. I think maybe, it's not even maybe, I think now we are on course. The good thing is that gold is always throughout the ages. Yes, it also gyrates, it also moves here and there, but the fundamentals of the movement of gold price are determined by purely market forces, not by any particular government. So we had this paradox that a gold-producing country had no money. Other countries work hard to earn money by exports. We have the additional advantage of actually digging money. Zimbabwe is now a major gold producer, and we're increasing our tonnage. Then we are told we have no currency. It's a bizarre paradox. So I think this was an occasion for the president to interact with the business community and to build bridges and consultative channels so that business and the government can work together. It's all in the same spirit that our president listens to all. So that's why he accorded that meeting with the businessmen at the International Conference Center a higher priority than even his own Politburo. We take business seriously, and we thank Alpha Media Holdings for the initiative. We had several agendas on our Politburo meeting, the main one being the impending conference on the 8th of August of the War Veterans League. You will recall that it was a decision of the Second Republic in 2017 that the fighters of the Second Chimurenga from Zipra and Zanla should now be formally constituted into an organ of the party. Here we are, the party is formed, they both call for a military wing. People go into exile because that was where they could they could form an army. You can't form an army inside the belly of your adversary, unless of course you are the Triple C. They think they can do things like that. It doesn't happen. So we went abroad to Tanzania, to Zambia, to Botswana, and in the end, we had a diaspora, a military diaspora, all over the world where we could get support. Cuba, Czechoslovakia at that time, Soviet Union, China, Ethiopia, Algeria, Egypt. We had a military diaspora. They went on to become a formidable army, and in 1979, they delivered telling blows to the enemy as we mastered modern warfare. It's not easy to defeat an Anglo-Saxon army because Britain was the foremost and most capable of the imperial powers. Here in Zimbabwe, we made the British cat's paw of the imperial army of England eat humble pie. Come independence, some remain in the army, some are they say our work is done, they leave the army. But they begin to lose. In fact, they become marginalized in the affairs of the party. Yet during that difficult time from 1966 to 1979, they were actually the torch bearers. They were the ones who were the handlers of the party through their military and political structures as they mobilized people in a people's war. Their organizational capacity is unparalleled, their experience, their sense of political judgment, and their sense of vision is what has shaped modern Zimbabwe. How do such people not become part of the ruling party, of the ruling, of the government, not fail to influence ideas in the government of the day? They became, at best, an affiliate like the chairman I am of the Zimbabwe National Liberation War Veterans Association, but that's lobbying. It's not within the echelons of decision making. So President Mnangagwa has seen it right and proper that a Veterans League be formed, and it shall be confined, of course, to those who fought in that war. The others who supported the war will be affiliates. So the conference planning is well ahead on schedule. Everything is in proper order. We got a report on that, and we are looking forward to a very successful launch of the League of the War Veterans of Zimbabwe come 8th of August. We are happy that this auspicious occasion shall be graced by fellow national liberation movements from the region. We always pride ourselves in that because we shared camps, military camps in Tanzania, in Zambia, and elsewhere with SWAPO, with the ANC, with Frelimo, with PAC, with PIGC. So we bonded amongst ourselves as well as bonding with those countries which were hosting us. We acquired a political soul, even though, I mean, well beyond our neighbors. We are neighbors, but now we have a political soul. It has a bearing on how affairs are handled in the region, as you saw recently when the American Secretary of State was given literally a middle finger by SADC when he came around trying to canvass support for Ukraine. Minister Pandu from South Africa, she was very forthright and direct, and she continues to be, speaking in the language which we understand, the language of the National Liberation Movement, the language of those who fought against racism and apartheid and colonialism. That's our tradition, that's our DNA, that's our pedigree as a region, and it was fully reflected in the SADC meeting in Kinshasa when President Chakwera, who was the outgoing chairman, spelled it out in no uncertain terms to the Americans that they will not be here to tell us how and when and in what manner we should interact with third countries. We are sovereign states. We decide our own destiny. But you can see the running thread in all this which comes from the National Liberation Movement. So we are happy that this conference of the war veterans restores these stalwart fighters, those who remain, to become part to the central decision-making of the ruling party and, of course, influencing government. So this is a good thing, and we are happy to announce that to you. We also dealt with issues surrounding the issuing of title deeds to the urban dwellers. I think there are probably 1.3 million completed houses already, which are assets which do not sit in the books of the banks or other commercial entities. The party is determined to pursue that urban gift to those who put so much of their own resources and capital to build those houses. You will be happy to say that a lot of work has been done in Epworth, which will be used as a pilot, because you want to get things right. Title deeds are forever. They are intragenerational. That's why they're called title. So you can't do them in a piecemeal manner. You've got to be very careful. Most of the physical planning work has been done. We have used the Zimbabwean Institute of Satellite Agency, ZINGSA, and other drone companies to map out. But what is now left is to collate the physical map with the actual human beings who own, the actual owners, property owners. And you can't get it wrong. You need to get it right, the proper identity, the proper registration, everything about that. So this is why Epworth has been chosen as a pilot. I'm told 6,000 have already been done. And it's only a matter of time before the president shall be going to Epworth, depending on the outcome of the pilot, to start issuing out. And then it will be a rolling agenda for the part, for the president to go all over, so that 1.3 million houses are eventually put on the asset books of both commercial banks or state agencies or for let's say, mortgage companies. And the people who worked so hard will get the bonus of using that title to go and refinance maybe renovations, maybe build a new house for the son, for the daughter, or or for whoever. This is where we are going. Clearly, it will be a big shot in the arm for the financial sector. It will also change the debt to us, the debt structure of Zimbabwe, because all these assets are not on the books of the country. So we appear as if we are a very indebted country. Why? Because we have not accounted for some of the assets which we have. So this is a very important exercise by the party, and it is directing the government accordingly. And the president, I spoke to him just after the Politburo meeting. He says he is determined that the government shall pay the cost of this exercise. The homeowners will only pay a token, because he appreciates that they've done a good job building the assets, the houses which are assets for the country in the first instance. They've done the country good. So you cannot have that person pay again for the registration and other things concerning that asset. No. The onus is on the other side to say, thank you for having sacrificed so much to build these houses, and now they are going to be on the asset book of the country. You have done well for Zimbabwe. You have done well for the financial system. You have done well for the mortgage industry. You can imagine the jobs which will be created when all the Zimbabweans start renovating these houses or building them or improving upon them. So this is an important move, and the president is taking serious, is personally supervising that whole process, because he takes it seriously, and he thinks that the urban dweller deserves a dividend similar to that which has been given to the rural people by Pfumvudza and other programs. This is what is driving the president on this particular issue. We also addressed the issue of the upcoming by-elections, including the one tomorrow. Is it tomorrow in Komboyuni? Saturday. It's tomorrow. Our teams are busy on the ground. In fact, our political commissar did not attend. He went there. We once again, and that's what came with the Politburo, once again appealed to people there to vote, to campaign and vote quietly. I think this is the last day of campaigning, isn't it? Yeah. Well, now, because we have had incidents there, and I hope that the law enforcement authorities can deal with those incidents. But tomorrow, we want the people of Komboyuni to vote peacefully and decide who they want to represent them. Obviously, we expect that they will always pay allegiance to the party which has always been dear to the people of Zimbabwe in terms of deliverables, from independence to land to education, and now to innovative farming methods, and always accepting some of the shortcomings and correcting them, like what's happening now with Kotko. The government is focusing on it, and it has a bearing on the voters, particularly in that area. We need Kotko to be properly run as a business entity so that people who farm are paid in time and their money doesn't depreciate. So these are the things which the party is preoccupied with in that by-election, but there are others at local government level, and we will give you the list. I think it should be proper now that, because I spoke about the War Veterans League, I'm going to announce to you the chairmen who have been chosen at provincial level, the provincial chairpersons who shall form the electoral college of the leadership, which shall go into the central committee as well, into the central committee, the supreme decision-making board of the country. I will read you out the names, but the paper is available. Bulawayo, we have Comrade Sifas Ngube, he is the chairman. Harare, we have Comrade Patrick Zinyakatira. Manicaland, we have, hey, hurrah to Manicaland. We have a lady, a former, a former female combatant, we call them in the world, Departamento de Feminina, the women's department of the ZANU and CIPRA at that particular time. Her name is Linda Matatu. She won on her own merit. So we always try to highlight to the girl child to take pride in the fact that they can vote, the fact that they can no longer have to appeal to their brothers or to their fathers to go and get married and basically to make them full majors. It's not a gift of patriarchy, no. It is something which they earned as we fought side by side during the war. We didn't fight them behind their male colleagues. No, we fought side by side. And since we fought a people's war means mobilizing the whole population of a country to offset the asymmetrical nature of the British Imperial Army. So we had to organize the people. And since the people constitute half-half, in fact in Zimbabwe it's 53 to 51, to 50%, to 47% I think, in favor of women. You can't afford not to have women in being prominent positions because that's how it was in the war. We had to have all that population engaged. Imagine if the women had been minors, the war would have lasted longer. So the freedom of women in Zimbabwe, the voting of women, wherever they are, it's not a gift. It's their revolutionary victory against feudal ideas, against old customs, which kept women down. And it is important that that's why we celebrate, and the Politburo rightly celebrated this choice of Linda Matatu as the chairman of Manicaland province. There are other women who are there, and the president has promised that wherever possible, of course it's the democratic right to choose because it's by democracy, but wherever possible, proactive action shall be taken to achieve gender parity. Yeah, because that is a true reflection of how the war was fought. It was fought by both genders. So that's. Then we come to March Central. It's Comrade Martin Kwainona. I think most of you will remember him. Martin Kwainona Ndlovu. He used to be the aide de camp, the chief aide de camp of our former president, the tall man who was sitting behind. I've known him. We trained together in Yugoslavia in 1977. Back then, during the war, he has landed the chairman of our home province for the implantation of the guerrilla army, which is March Central, Kumushakwe ZANU-PF, Kwezanla forces. March East, we have Daniel Matengo. In March West, Epson Mchechetere. By the way, he was my instructor at Tembwe military camp back in 1975, 76.
Really?
Yeah, he was my instructor. They had come from Mukagao. This was the group of 700. About 600 and something of them were deployed to start the war, together with, and then some of them became instructors. The main advantage is that by 1976, when huge numbers of young people went their thousands into the war, we already had our own military training corps. We from the experience in the Northeast, Kumushakwe Wondo, Kumas Central, and they came to train, and our turnaround of recruits into military personnel was so quick, and we could do it even in Mozambique. That's why we were so, in fact, we had a challenge of the shortage of weapons, never a challenge of the shortage of personnel. This is how Zimbabweans embraced the fight for independence. We had the challenge of the shortage of weapons rather than the challenge of the shortage of personnel. So he was my instructor. I remember him very well. We have Matt North, Sonny Muguni, ex-war vets. He came from the Zimbabwe Liberation War Veterans Association. I congratulate him. That is the same thing with Cephas Nube. He also comes from the Zimbabwe National Liberation War Veterans Association. So from the affiliate, these are going to the organ. Mad South, we have Alfred Moyo. And in Mashingo, we have Comrade Gibson Mashingaidze. And in Midlands, we've got Comrade Amos Mapingire. So these are the candidates who are going to make it to the Electoral College. And the theme of the conference, befittingly, the Politburo and the President were very happy with force of the past, power of the present, and inspiration of the future. This will be the theme of the conference for the upcoming elective and inaugural, two things, inaugural and elective conference of the War Veterans League to become a formal organ, a fourth organ of the party. Okay. I think we also noted the various engagement of the President. I talked earlier on about the business community. His busy schedule is also reaching out to religious communities. He was in Gokwet Defe with Bishop Mtendi and the Zimbabwe Reformed Church, is it? Mm-hmm. Yes. It was a mammoth crowd. I went there. People who are so faith-driven, evincing so much patriotism as what they identify with ZANU-PF. Remember, this is one of the first ever churches to rebel from the idea that Christianity is colonial. Back, I think, in the 1920s and 30s. That's when they did that.
1930s.
Yeah, in the 1930s. I think they started in Mondoro there in Chekutu. Yes. To make people begin to de-racialize Christianity, to de-racialize, to decolonize Christianity. That was, they were the pioneers of that. So it is natural that we have an affinity for them because that is the basis of the African consciousness, which would then lead to the national liberation struggle to Chimurenga II. It was an impressive gathering, and we are very happy that the parties associated with them. And naturally, we see that as a captive vote come 2023. Similarly, with the way the president was yesterday, I think, is it yesterday? At the Wednesday. Other church, Wednesday. Yesterday. Pawimbo. Again, again, he was meeting the churches, the indigenous churches. We see them as a very important constituent and patriotic component of our voters. So the president is reaching out as much to business as it is to religious organizations, as it is to many other aspects of the daily life of the Zimbabweans. There's been an issue which has been going on social media. Normally, we don't comment on issues from social media, but in the light of the fact that a certain leader called Nelson Chamisa decides to fish into social media and try to grandstand about plight of patients being abused by definitely misdirected professional doctors. And in this instance, I'm talking about the Limpopo state minister who was castigating a Zimbabwean patient. Chamisa went on to grandstand about it and says that in 400 days it will be done. This and that we will be patient. Now, you see, sometimes we wonder if there's no contrivance. Why would a serious part want to delve into the affairs of another country when it is the duty of that particular country to deal with its professionals who may be discharging their role in an unprofessional manner? Everybody knows what is called the Hippocratic Oath about doctors. It goes as far back as Greek times. You treat a patient regardless of whether it's your enemy or your friend. That's the Hippocratic oath.
Even in war.
Even, so here we are having this situation, and then Chamisa wants to use it to score points about that you've been 400 days making Zimbabwe viable so that people don't go abroad to this. This is tendentious and it is irresponsible. I want to emphasize that we regard South Africa as a sister republic. We regard the ANC as a brother republic. We deal with our issues of state. These are matters of state in formal channels between the two governments. And you will be happy to know that there is no difference of opinion between the two governments on this particular issue. We don't want to go any further because we interact at confidential level with the South African government, and we see things eye to eye. I repeat, the ANC is the sister party, and South Africa is a brother republic to us. We go a long way. We are together today. We will be together for a long time, notwithstanding the grandstanding of the likes of Chamisa. So sometimes we wonder if it was not contrived so that he gets a platform. It has been a tendency of late where they create fiction, plant it in the newspapers, like trying to say the South African foreign minister has said this when they are quoting a historical paper from 2019. They want to use it as if the South African foreign minister is criticizing Zimbabwe when she is not. They are taking something from the archives, distorting it and putting it in the newspapers, then commenting upon it. So you create fiction, then out of that fiction you comment on it. That's not the way a decent opposition party should behave. And when things concern other states, it's always proper to observe diplomatic etiquette. States deal with each other through their foreign ministers, through the foreign ministry. They don't deal with each other through errant opposition politicians wanting to teach South Africans how they should behave. We don't subscribe to that, and we condemn Chamisa very much. And we also tell the Zimbabwean diaspora that all issues which affect them in South Africa, they are best dealt with at government-to-government level, because that's where results come from. They can't be dealt with by people who are aspiring for power and probably will never attain that power anyway because their agenda is wrong. Then they want to say that we want to address your problems. No, no, no. You want your problems addressed by the people who have the capacity to do it. And I can assure you that the government of Zimbabwe and the government of South Africa have the capacity to address those issues. I can also assure you that the sister parties of ANC and ZANU-PF have the capacity and the will to address those issues. And I want to add, there is this fallacy that the economic downturn of Zimbabwe is forever. No, 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 not at all. This economy is on the upswing. We are beginning to see the fruits of Zimbabwe's open for business in dramatic ways. I don't know, I still owe you a trip to Manise for the steel plant. You'll be amazed that 40% of the work is done on Africa's giant steel plant, the largest on the African continent. And we are on course that by sometime this year, next year, Zimbabwe will be producing steel on a scale which Africa has never done before, and on a quality which Africa has never done, because we attracted the best possible candidate, the number one into that field, who is a global player of global note. But not far from Harare, go to Arcadia Lithium there. You'll be amazed at the amount of investment which is going on there. The place has changed. This is Goromonzi here. This is big. These are the best companies in the lithium industry of the world, the top ones, who are plying their trade in Zimbabwe. You go to Buhera, same thing. Another giant lithium company is busy there. People have been relocated, and a giant mine is being built, and it will start production probably by January next year. Now, lithium is the fuel, is the petrol and diesel of the next generation of cars, which are coming in faster than you thought. And Zimbabwe sits snug in the middle of the new mobility energy boom. That's where we are because of our lithium. How can the fortunes of a country which is so well endowed and which is getting the best possible investors, the top ones in the world, how can the fortunes continue to be looking down? They can't. We are on the mend. And I can possibly venture to tell you that in the next 12 months, a lot of the Zimbabwean technicians, welders, electricians, and journeymen who are in South Africa, they will be migrating back home for plumb jobs in our lithium, in our steel industry, in the downstream fabrication of the steel industry. And possibly, very soon, why not the actual production of new electric vehicles? We can do it because the steel from Manisa will be the best quality. And the lithium which Zimbabwe has is also top in the world. And the cobalt is coming from the DRC. All the trucks which you see on our roads carrying, flatbeds, they're carrying cobalt. And those are the minerals which make the battery. And we have got world-class investors who have made it on the global stage, all engaged in those industries, and they are in Zimbabwe. Now, if somebody continues to pride, to peddle this story that Zimbabwe is fated to be in doldrums until Chamisa comes into power, you will miss the boat because everybody else will have gone, but you will be the only one who will miss the boat because the whole country will be in an upswing and it will be prosperous. These are facts which are being determined by economic factors on the ground, by investors who have got their boots on the ground in Zimbabwe, and by a world which is hungry for those products which Zimbabwe has been endowed with in the new energy sector. So we are very, very confident, and the president is pursuing those policies in that direction. So the gloom and doom story, which is associated with Chamisa, is going to be eradicated by prosperity. He can't continue to campaign on that. No wonder there is a volte-face. Suddenly he doesn't want sanctions. They're in a quandary. Because how do you continue to support sanctions when we have outfought sanctions? They have become redundant, the sanctions. So if it's a redundant weapon, what do you do with it? You try to turn around. We are winning the sanctions war, not by lobbying for American forgiveness. No, by simply doing what is right in Zimbabwe to build a strong economy and offsetting the negative premium of American sanctions. We are actually offering a positive premium on investment so that investors can come to Zimbabwe whether the American Congress or the American president likes it or not. We don't care what they like. We do what is right for the businessmen. And that's what we are doing in Zimbabwe. I also want to address another issue. Recently in Parliament, again a Triple C member of Parliament who moonlights as a financial expert and goes by the name of Biti. He says that Zimbabwe borrowed money in China, $200 million US in 2006, and then went on to guarantee that loan with 50 million ounces of platinum, which at the present price is worth, I don't know, he gets some figure of 26 billion. He says, how do you do that? First, I was the ambassador in Beijing. That loan was unsecured. China just gave it because they wanted Zimbabwe to get Chinese tractors because we were being denied tractors by the traditional Western countries. So China is now a major, was emerging as a major industrial producer, and nobody can doubt that China is the factory of the world. So they gave us a loan for two reasons. One, to make us produce, but two, to show the Western countries that if you continue on your line, you will lose the market, because you are not the only ones who can now produce tractors. So the loan was unsecured. The 56 million ounces, input it. You can't go and take platinum from Zimplats and pay it for it. So nobody, you can't talk of 50 million ounces, because those ounces belong to a company anyway, Zimplats or Unki or Mimosa. So how do you take that and go and guarantee it as if that company has no obligations of its own and its shareholders? You can see it's financial madness. He is, let me put it, he's as erudite in legal matters as he is illiterate in financial issues. And 2 years moonlighting as a Minister of Finance will never make you a financial boffin. I have the advantage of having having studied law at university. I also studied finance at university. If it takes you 3 to 4 years to become a lawyer, you also need 3 to 4 years to become a financial boffin. He doesn't have the 3 years. Yet the few days he got in when he was Minister of Finance now makes him grandstand on issues which are beyond his grasp, especially in financial matters. Mr. Beatty, shut up. Don't lie to try to peddle the myth that China is driving African nations into debt. It's not true. When we get airports, when we get power stations, when we get steel plants, when we get lithium processing plants, when we get new parliaments, these are solid objects of human development. They are those who pontificate about what they can do for Africa. They've been around for a long time. I always remind you, when America wanted to build their navy, they built the Kariba Dam and built chrome plants in Kwekwe and Gweru. When America was about to win the Cold War against the Soviet Union, it stopped building their submarines and their navy, and those plants closed. So the Chinese come and invest on ground which nobody has been investing. And then we're finger pointing at those. Please bring your money, put your money there on the table, America. Don't put sanctions. Then we can talk about the merits or the otherwise of Chinese investment. Not when your hands are tied back at the back and you are being scrubbed, you are being mean, and then you say what you are doing is wrong. No, we want to see the color of your money, your investment dollar on the table. So please, Mr. Beatty, and we know your purpose is to denigrate China-Africa cooperation, to depict Africans as indigent decision makers of their own destiny when they are now independent states. No, we are not indigent. We are active, as should be world citizens, because we got our independence. We don't make decisions because we are told this or that by another country. So it's not true. We never guaranteed that loan as the way Beatty explains. It's a fallacy, it's a fiction, which is just meant to put himself in the news. And that's not the way a proper opposition should behave. Yeah. We also have our president going to Angola. The reason is that it is the interment of the late President Dos Santos, who ruled Angola for many years, a great revolutionary. All of you who needs to be reminded of history, who read about the great battle of Quito Cunavale. I think it was in 1978. That's the first time the South African army was routed by an African army. There was this belief by the former apartheid and racist Rhodesians that they were superior to bullets from Africans. That battle changed the course of Southern African history, and he was the commander-in-chief of FAPLA, the Angolan Armed Forces, and he had been in the revolution before that. So the president is seeing it fit to go and attend this burial of a great African leader. You all know that the ANC was also hosted in Angola, they trained in Angola, so it's a great gathering because of revolutionaries. We are going back memory lane to the days of the National Liberation Movement and the frontline states. So the president has seen it fit that he will be going to Angola to attend the funeral of President Dos Santos. Any other issues, Mr. Director? Well, we have a lot of things going on in the party. There are some reorganizations. I think if I can make an announcement, we have those names of the people who were brought back, reinstated in the party in Manicaland. It's not, we are just highlighting. The party always has activities going on. So, but in these districts, Tonderai Jinga, Rejoice Machipedza, and Patience Gwenje and Philip Guyo, they have been reinstated in their appropriate positions in the provincial executive of Manicaland. And there will be also restructuring in Buhera North, Chimombe East, Chimvuri District, and Chiremwa District in Buhera District. You can see that for us, the party is organic. It has to constantly work on its structures because we want to account for voters from the cell level in the next elections. It is owed to our national liberation credentials. We had to organize people individual by individual, gender by gender, village by village, district by district, everybody to be organized in order to offset the Rhodesian advantage. We carry on with that tradition. Why am I saying this? There is a party which just decides that they don't want structures. There's a party which decides that they don't have to announce programs. There is a party which decides that they can just dissolve, an individual can just dissolve. Where are those decisions coming from? How do we know that they are not coming from your last night beer drink, perhaps with another woman or something who may be your friend? How do we know? If you are not going to be calling for congresses where you account for yourself as a party.
No constitution.
No constitution either. You say, I don't want a constitution. So what are we following? Even prophets eventually write about their stories. That's why we have Muhammad and Jesus writing about the Bible and the Quran. This one, no. All those things are not necessary. In a country which is illiterate, we are told all those things don't matter. Just believe in me. Why do you want to believe in me? Who are you? Can you tell us who do you comport with? What are your structures? So we very much welcome the prospect of an amendment to the Constitution that those parties which are individuals should not take part in elections unless they declare themselves to be an independent person. We can't have this masquerading of an individual without structures trying to trample upon our democracy. To fight and win, I remind you, to create an army. It's a structured organization. Now we are being told structures don't matter. Constitutions don't matter. Programs don't matter. Policies don't matter. I matter. Is who? Mr. Chamisa. No. We will not accept that. I hope that the parliament, we have the majority to do that. Before the elections, a law should be passed to stop such positing. We can't accept that, as a country which aspires to run things in the way other countries do. Even those countries which they purport to admire. In America, there are two parties. There may be others. But you know the structure of the Democratic Party, you know the structure of the Republican Party. Yes. You know who is their leader at a time. You know where they have their conferences. You know how they canvass for votes on the ground for people to support them and for supporters. Why does Chamisa want to be a departure from this conventional way, time-tested way of organizing political organizations? No, we will not accept it. I hope that the Parliament will make the appropriate laws so that ZEC can enforce them.
Okay. Thank you very much, Comrade Spokesperson, for that elaborate brief to our colleagues from the media. Just to inform you that when I was doing my A-level, we used to study history, and what was interesting then was I am the law's approach of governance from then called Louis XVI. So when we were learning those things, corporate spokesperson, we never knew that we would experience them in real life, where a person leads an organization and says, I'm the law unto myself and my wish is everyone's command. If you are, it's quite very interesting. I loved it when you elaborated it that way. Our colleagues, this is the time to engage the spokesperson. If you do have any questions on any other issues besides those that have been raised, it is important that you do that, because today is a Friday. I wouldn't want you to bother the spokesperson after the last 72 hours of intense deliberations from the Politburo on Wednesday, and then of course today again. So this is exactly the right opportunity to ventilate your issue. So over to you, comrades. Yes, I'll start with my colleague from SABC.
Thank you very much. Two issues. First, I would like to find out if there were any deliberations that were made regarding the new nomination fees that were announced by the Commission. There have been some sentiments that these fees are actually derailing the efforts that especially when it comes to uplifting women or trying to make sure that women are all represented in parliament and other groups. They say that $1,000 is exorbitant. A lot of women will not be able to afford this, naturally disqualified from participating in the election. So I want to find out if we discuss that. Then the second one has to do with the elective war veterans conference. I wanted to find which positions are up for contestation, and secondly, what comes of the War Veterans Association and chair.
Oh, okay. I'll start by the last one.
Yes, welcome.
You
can proceed.
Yeah, the association is an affiliate of the party, like many others. We are not an organ of the party. We fought hard for the party to have an organ. That is, so the organ is actually a product of the work of the association. But we were outside of this corridor. Now we are inside as the league. We will retain our association. You know, one never knows. The association is a pressure group, it's a lobby group. If we become a member of the organ, of the party, then we dissolve the association, we may not have that latitude of doing certain things and when the time comes. I want to remind you that the association was the one which took the lead in removing the nascent dynasty, which Mugabe, the former president, was about to foist upon Zimbabwe. If we had been an organ, we would have been obliged to listen to the PC. That's why we were expelled from the party. But he couldn't expel us from our association. So we used the association fittingly and accordingly. And we went around with our friends in South Africa, in Mozambique in particular, to make sure that we built a consensus, a diplomatic consensus, a revolutionary consensus around removing Mugabe. we had the latitude to do it because we were an association. We could not have done it as an organ of the party. So there are distinct roles which the two institutions discharge. One is an organ of the party to bring the formal visional aspect and organizational capacity of the fighters of the National War of Independence into the decision-making processes of government through the party. We didn't have that avenue. Yeah. So we want that role. But the association is there as an autonomous custodian of the values which drove young people to go to war in the 1960s and 70s, to sacrifice so much. So we don't see a clash. Like I said earlier on, it was the association which lobbied hard, and it is the reward, the organ is a reward of the association, seeing the vagaries of abuse of power which can happen when you are not inside the ruling party. You can have a leader who then begins to feel that he's God. And like Mugabe in the end started feeling, and his wife actually said, I'm living with a God. So she too became a goddess. Yeah. If we had been in the party, and we would have said, no ways, you can't do that. Because we know how you came into power. And that's exactly what the association did to him. So that is, I hope my explanation comes through very well. The other one, ZEC fees, we didn't address it. It's a new thing. It is still a technical level. I'm sure if it affects our party membership, the way you are talking about, we also will be raising it from within our party. I've actually heard musings that the president may share some of the sentiments which you have just expressed. But at the same time, we are very conscious of the fact that we want to remove the nuisance candidates who just clutter the candidate's role, and say, I want to be president. I mean, to have 23, 25 people are all asking to be a president. And then when he goes to vote, it's him, and even his wife doesn't vote for him. And yet he has registered to be a president. So we need to find a fine balance between screening nuisance candidates, but also not making it prohibitively expensive for people to be candidates. I do hope that answers.
Yes, then I'll come to you, Pindai. You can say your name and your station. I'm sure this is your first interaction with the spokesperson.
Yeah, we are seized with that matter. We are reading the facts on the ground. By the way, I come from the journalistic background. So anything which bothers journalists in their work, it really concerns me. Incidentally, my wife is also the Minister of Information, and she has done everything to reach out to the media, to break the barriers of you and us. So the questions, the issues which you have raised, we are seriously investigating them, both at government and at party level. And we also hope that the police will discharge their work so that the facts come to the fore. And when they do come to the fore, whichever way, remedial action will be taken.
Any other question?
I know some of the people we are talking about, so I would. They are people of integrity. So when they raise a complaint, I take it seriously.
Yes, your name? Oh, yes.
Speak up. Well, for serious party supporters, it shouldn't cause any disharmony because that is the structure. That is the structure of the party. It is the structure of the party. The party, when it was at its formative stage, you remember the party was originally based on the ANC in South Africa. Actually, the Zimbabwean was called the ANC of Southern Rhodesia.
Yes.
Yeah. It then evolved to become ZAPU, and then it became National Democratic Party, then became ZAPU, and then split into ZANU. 3 organs were specifically provided for in the Constitution, which was the main wing, the Women's League, and the Youth Wing. Those are the 3 organs which were provided for in the Constitution. But because there was a task at hand to set up an army to offset the Rhodesian military dominance, a task which was entrusted to Chairman Chitepo on the ZANLA side and John Ziapapa Moyo on the ZIPRA side. These organs which were set up, these military organs which were set up in Zambia and became the driver of the party because the parties were banned in this country. They are the ZIPRA and the ZANLA military wings. These are formal organizations within the structure of the party, ZANU-PF. This other one, and I can tell you, I fought at the front, organizing Mujibas and organizing Chimbwidos. It's an initiative by a fighter, a guerrilla fighter in the field. You don't then set up a register in Maputo at the military headquarters or in Lusaka at the military to say that these are the supporters which I have. Can you now incorporate them into the party? Because this was an initiative, a creative initiative to make sure that we have supporters from the population in a people's war. But it's not a formal organization which belongs to the original formation, of the party. They are not. So they will remain affiliates like so many other organizations. But in the original crucible of the party, they were not there. But the military wings were there. That's why Chitepo was sent to Dar es Salaam to set up ZANLA forces. That's why John Ziapapa Moyo was sent up to Zambia, in Lusaka, to set up ZIPRA forces. That's fact. These other ones, no. There was nobody who was set up, told. We just said, go and organize support for the war. Then some became very active supporters of the war, and so it makes sense that those who were active get recognition. That's why we then said there's a category called Chimbwidos and Mujibas. But this was a product of the prosecution of the war, not a formal structure, which was deliberated upon and incorporated into the party. No, it wasn't. So I can't see why any self-respecting supporter of ZANU-PF would take an umbrage at the respect of history of the evolution of their party. No. The serious supporters of the party are happy. We are an association and affiliate of the party. I don't feel any less now that there is a league. So they will be on the same plane as me with my association. If I'm happy to be an affiliate of the Zimbabwe National Liberation War Veterans Association, they should also be happy to be an affiliate as either Mujibas or Chimbwidos.
Thank you very much, Comrade Spokesperson. Is there any other question?
By the way, they've been vetted, and there is now a register. It exists on the government. The Constitution of Zimbabwe recognized them. And remember, the Constitution was written by ZANU-PF also during that time. So at government level, nothing changes. The Constitution recognizes them, we recognize them. But historically, the Constitution of the party never had that provision from the beginning. I don't know whether you see the distinction. Thank you.